Hi, this is part 2 of Son of Gord, which is a short story that I wrote during lockdown in 2020-2021. If you haven't already, I suggest you go and watch part 1 before watching this one. You don't have to, you can watch part 2 and then part 1. You can watch part 5 in a couple of weeks if you want. I don't really mind. It's a short story, a fictional story that I wrote during lockdown in 2020-2021. I'm going to be releasing this story in installments over the next few weeks. But if you would like to watch the whole thing in its entirety, then it is available on my Patreon. It's just £3 a month, and it goes a long way to help support me creating content and hopefully improving the quality of the content that I can put on the channel. As I say, that's available on my Patreon members. If you want to join, there's no pressure to join. It's there if people want to support me, that's great. If you're not going to join the Patreon, then please, at the very least, if you could hit the subscribe button and maybe hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next posting a video, that would be fantastic. But yeah, this is part 2 of Son of Gord. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much for watching. As the mysterious planet began to loom large in front of them, Gordon was struck by how similar it looked to his home planet Cygnus. Very green, and he recognised vast blue oceans. Olmi informed him, "We'll be at the edge of the planet's atmosphere in 10 minutes. Gordon was nervous but didn't want to show it. "When we arrive, I think it's best if you stay with the hopper while I have a look around," he ventured. "Okay," Olmi replied. As the front of the hopper inched towards the edge of the planet's atmosphere, Gord pressed the apparatus switch. Suddenly they found themselves gliding through beautiful blue skies above a vast desert. Gord seized the controls as they shimmied around looking for any signs of intelligent life. On the horizon, Gord spotted 3 large pyramids and a stone creature sticking out of the sand. He banked slightly and laid the hopper down smoothly behind a large sand dune. "Testing atmospheric conditions," Olmi stated in his automated tone. "The atmosphere is very similar to Cygnus, slightly higher radiation levels but perfectly suitable for your physiology," Olmi informed Gordon. "Awesome, thank you, Olmi, you're a pal," Gordon said, attempting to smooth things over. Then, as the hopper doors opened, added, "I won't stray too far, I'll keep in contact and let you know if I find anything." "Take care, Gordon, and make sure you use your cloaking device before attempting to make contact with any creatures you may encounter." "I will," said Gordon, adding, "See you soon, Olmi." As he stepped outside, the hopper's doors closed swiftly behind him, and here he was, one alien alone on a strange planet. Gord took a deep breath, recorded the ship's location on his home finder, looked about him, and took his first steps into the soft, shifting sands. He looked up into the blazing sun, rubbed his stubbly chin, and pointed himself in the direction of the 3 pyramids they had seen just before landing. The largest of which was brilliant white. It hurt his eyes to look at it, so he slipped on his sun guards. When he reached the central pyramid, he saw something he certainly had not expected. There were 2 statues of Nubian pirates guarding the entrance. He stood there in front of them, thinking to himself how Nubian pirates must have been using this strange planet as an outpost at some point. He noticed a stone tablet on the ground. It was inscribed with Nubian characters, which seemed to suggest that the inhabitants of this planet worshipped them. It also suggested that they had bestowed great wisdom upon them. These stones seemed ancient. He just hoped that there were no Nubians around anymore. On a dune in front of him, he noticed some shadows milling about. He slowly began moving towards them. They could not see him, of course. They were leading a weird-looking creature by some kind of harness. It had 2 humps on its back and did not appear particularly willing to follow them. As he approached, the humped creature made a strange honking noise and started swishing its head from side to side. It seemed to sense his presence. In all the commotion, Gordon caught a whiff of the creature's breath and very nearly fainted. The 2 men leading the creature were looking directly at the space where he stood. They appeared to be very much like the people from his own planet, smaller in stature, but essentially the same as himself. He considered for a moment whether or not he should take a chance and reveal himself, or just observe them at a distance. Gordon was not someone who took a long time to mull over decisions and weigh up his options, a trait which nearly always got him in trouble. He punched in the safety code on his cloaking device and pressed the release button. On seeing him appear from nowhere, the two men immediately fell to their knees, bowing and waving their arms in the most bizarre fashion. Gordon approached them slowly. They pressed the sides of their faces into the sand and squinted up at him nervously. They were babbling in a strange and unfamiliar dialect. He initiated the auto-translate in his neckband. They seemed to think he was some kind of deity. He waved his hands in an attempt to dismiss this notion, but they just stared up at him with terrified blank expressions on their faces. One of them said something about making the golden god angry. He tried in vain to reassure them, but it was no use. His auto-translate had clearly not had sufficient time to assimilate their language. He slowly backed away, reactivated his cloaking device and trudged on through the sand. Well, that went well, he thought to himself sarcastically, wondering if all the people on this planet were so simple. Gord was at a bit of a loss as to what to do. If he could not communicate with the inhabitants of this planet, how was he going to find anything that might help them get home or make this sojourn on some level worthwhile, and who knows, maybe even give him the chance to redeem himself? The impressive structures they had seen must have been built by the Anubians. The inhabitants of this planet appeared to be quite simple, and there was no way these simpletons could have constructed them by themselves. Maybe he should just admit defeat and go back to the hopper and call his flipping mother. Gordon trudged back towards the hopper. He needed to collect his thoughts. He had not gone particularly far, so it did not take him long. As he entered the hopper, Olmi looked at him quizzically and almost laughed at him. "What happened to you?" "What do you mean?" Gordon said incredulously. "You're glowing, and your face, it looks like you haven't shaved for a week. You've only been gone for 45 minutes. "What the?" Gordon exclaimed as he looked at his reflection in the hopper's navigation screen. He was actually glowing. His face had a strange yellow tinge. He had the makings of a full beard. "It must be due to the slightly elevated radiation levels," Olmi informed him, trying not to laugh.